This is outrageous. I talked about this a little bit on the show today in one of the headlines, but we need to go into it a little bit more full-throatedly because it's that bad. It's utterly atrocious that somebody would make a decision like this in 2020 because there is no honest, real justification that you can make for this. Derek Chauvin was booked into Ramsey County Jail. As he was booked into Ramsey County Jail, the jail supervisors took the decision to remove people of color off of basically 8 people of color away from working with Chauvin. Even removing the officer who was supposed to be basically doing the booking and controlling that process and told him to stop patting him down and go do something else. The reason was that they were a liability, that their color, their race, made them a liability in dealing with Chauvin. Think about that. They initially denied that, but eventually came around saying, hey, I was just trying to help him out. Not Chauvin, help them out, help the employees out who would have been doing their jobs engaging with Chauvin. That guy's been demoted. But the very fact that he would do it in the first place, think about what that means. You're basically saying that the African Americans, maybe even the Hispanics that are working in your jail, has no ability to control themselves because they will be so overcome by racial animosity and hatred at what Chauvin did that they will break out of the roles of their professionalism and just rip them apart. Why is that not true for white jailers and pedophiles or killers or people who shoot up a church? Explain that. If African Americans are dealing with Chauvin and they're angry at what Chauvin did, I would imagine that they are. But how do you explain the same thing for white jailers dealing with people who do heinous things? Wouldn't those people have the same impetus, the same rage and indignation at what that person did, especially some of the more heinous crimes? That they will be also uncontrollable in going after that person. Why are you singling out African Americans as if they're somehow uniquely incapable of doing their jobs? At the end of the day, these people are professionals like anybody else. And as professionals, they would go about doing their job with Chauvin like anybody else. If any of them injured, killed, hurt in any way, they would be prosecuted immediately. It would be understood that they would be prosecuted. None of them are going to take the hit for Derek Chauvin, meaning off his life. They may be a dick to him. They may not give him any additional favors. Within the context and the leeway of their ability to interact with him, he may have a rough go of it since there will be no leeway at all. That may be true. But so what? That's basically what you have inmates going through every day. You've basically given him a situation where you've removed elements that he may not like to deal with. The other key to this is, were you moving those people for their benefit or were you moving those people for his? That's the question that needs to be asked. And I don't know the answer to that question. People are assuming that you're basically moving those inmates because you think those inmates are going to somehow injure, hurt Derek Chauvin. Maybe, maybe not. But again, are you doing it for his benefit or theirs? At the best of things that I can say is maybe you can make an argument that there's some liability if an African American inmate injures Chauvin. But that is the most stupidest thing. The liability of it wouldn't be any more than the liability of a situation of a regular person attacking the inmate. Because again, the issue is that the individual is not controlled and overpowered by their race. In that situation, they're professionals doing a job. There are plenty of people, I would imagine, they would like to beat, kick, injure, otherwise mistreat, that they go about not doing those things. It is flagrantly demoralizing, appalling, even to some degree humiliating. To separate, like I said, the guy who did that. Yes, that guy did get demoted. But the fact that it happened in the first place, The people who are involved in this filed a legal suit. Now, the suit that they've charged is 8 non-white corrections officers who work with the jail holding Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd, have filed discrimination charges with Minneapolis Police Department of Human Rights, claiming that they were prevented from guarding or having contact with Derek Chauvin on the basis of their race. Now, fact of the matter is, the Ramsey County Sheriff's Officer initially denied reports on social media that non-white officers were barred from contact with Chauvin. Jail Superintendent Steve Linden reportedly told his superiors that his steps to remove non-white officers from around Derek Chauvin were meant to protect and support them. He has since been demoted. You weren't protecting them. You were protecting, in your mind, Chauvin. You did this for Chauvin. You didn't even do this, I would think, for the jail. Because, again, if anything happens to Chauvin, because one of those inmates attacks and injures Chauvin, they didn't do it, nor would they get any credit for their race in regards to allowing them to get off. The jail is under no such liability because of those people are black. If that's the situation, then you're screwed because you have a lot of white inmates who are dealing with black inmates. Are you going to stop those white jailers from dealing with those black inmates? Especially since it could be argued that many of these jailers might have a particular racist intent. If you're going to go with this notion that Chauvin should be protected from blacks, should not blacks, as inmates, only deal with black jailers? Look, you're setting the logic for this, right? And that's the logic to which you're setting. I'm saying that's appalling. You shouldn't be segregating people on the basis of race as if they can't do their job because their race prevents them from doing their job. That's ludicrous. That guy should lose his job, not be demoted. And yeah, whatever the lawsuit is that these people get, because that guy basically admitted to what they are accusing him of. God bless. God bless. I don't necessarily know what you can get out of it, but I would say it is a demoralizing and embarrassing thing to be told, I need you to step aside, let the white person do that job, because I don't trust you. Your blackness is a problem. Your blackness is a problem. I thought we were beyond that. I don't even know if that even is illegal to do that. I mean, you are basically, yeah, it's like saying fuck the civil rights movement. We function in this society under a basic premise. It may be fanciful, but we do function under a premise that all of these cultural ideas and all of these family upbringings, these basically, coincidental artifacts that we wed ourselves to, that basically all of those things are subordinated to basically a higher idea of the government. This thing that is entirely in our heads that we feel is real and everything else. But that thing and the Constitution and the laws and everything else, that we subordinate ourselves to that. And in doing so, all 300 and some million of us basically functions under a similar body of law. Fair enough. Whether you like the law or not. The law is not there to be ethical, right, or anything from a cosmic sense. It's just backed by power. It's the thing that a lot of force can be brought to bear in order to back and force and push through in regards to forcing you to do it. In us agreeing to that, we to some degree take a position, especially from the standpoint of after the civil rights movement and everything else, that who we are as human beings is primary, not the race. I understand that's fanciful. I get it. And I know saying that from the standpoint of with American history and everything else, fanciful. That doesn't mean that's not necessarily the objective. When you go into your workplace and you have black, white, gay, straight, etc., that's exactly what you're doing. Do people face discrimination at times? Yes. Is that the primary mode into which we operate ourselves in the United States? No. And is this something that is easily accepted by the larger society? Again, the answer is no. Does it happen? Yes. from the standpoint of the cultural norm and the hegemonic norm, from the perspective of where pressure pushes in regards to get people to conform, where the conformity goes in the direction of accepting those various people in the various ways to which they are, with a certain degree of tolerance that allows human beings to be human beings, and that you wouldn't necessarily discriminate of that human beings because of some kind of artifact, that whether they're black, white, gay, straight, or anything else, that who they are as people matters more, and that who they are, especially in the context of the job that they're doing, is not a factor of their race. Clearly, not everybody gets that. And we fail at trying to make that a norm sometimes. But the fact that this guy got demoted and fired, at the very least, is some recognition that that was a fuck up. Whether anything happens in regards to the lawsuit or not, I don't know. But the demoting of the guy, he should have been fired. Demoting, at the very least, acknowledges we fucked up. That's more than what happens to some cops when they kill people, so go figure. This is outrageous. Like,